who I can pick on here. We'll wait another minute or two. Has anyone had a chance to tinker with anything like a Notebook LM or, for example, some of the deep research stuff that we chatted about last week? See a head nod. Alexa, did you end up playing with that?
I sure did. Yeah, I did kind of my own little investigative research with the deep research, a little bit about my family foundation. My parents and I had some questions we haven't been getting answers to. So, since everything should essentially be public, I was able to do deep research in that and start a Notebook LM, which created that podcast, which was really easy for my parents to listen to. So it was like, yeah, real time, I was using those skills, and then I started building my capstone as well, based on the skills that we learned last week. So yeah,
That
just
one
playing
two
around with it
that
for
one
sure.
two the 1-2 punch of deep research plus notebook LM to digest whatever comes out of there is a really good combo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great, and it's made it really easy to understand, which was the most
Did
important, I
you
think, for my parents.
did you find the answers to the questions you said you weren't getting answers to from the public info?
Actually, I did. Yeah,
That's fascinating. So
Wow.
you were working with either like staff or contractors to try to get some answers to stuff that was public and you couldn't get straight answers and you found it online.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
so
Nice
empowering. So
sleuthing.
empowering, yeah.
yeah,
That's so
very
fun.
interesting stuff.
Yeah. Has anyone else had a chance to tinker with deep research and or Notebook LM over the last week or so?
What you getting up to, Michelle?
I I did a personal a personal project. My husband and I we owned some land and we have like a little tiny house, and so he's very skeptical of AI, so I thought this might be a fun way to start to lure him in. So he wants to eventually put solar on the tiny house, and so I said, all right, let's use this deep research homework to start to figure that out. And so I used Perplexity and I used Gemini to basically say, like, here's the parameters, like, this is how big the tiny house is, this is the land, this is where it's located, this would be the uses for the electrical needs. Give me costs, give me vendors, give me all this stuff. And yeah, he's like, holy shit.
Mm.
All this like great information came out. And it was interesting to see like what Perplexity gave us versus what Gemini gave us. And then the thing that's cool about Gemini is that they actually have the built-in like create button there. And so I was actually from that page able to create an infographic one pager immediately that he could see instead of putting it in the notebook, Ellen. And then I could even have clicked to put it into audio for him to listen to, which I think I'll do because it was like Gemini gave me a lot more information than Perplexity did, but probably because I'm not paying for Perplexity right now.
Mm,
Um,
could be.
so anyway, so he's like really excited. And
A
I'm
couple,
sure have a lot of follow-up questions for us to ask it as
yeah,
we keep going.
a couple clicks later, and you have a how to install solar on your tiny house diagram.
Yeah, basically, that's what he asked. He was like, can we also ask it how to do an outdoor shower?" I was like, "Yeah." Like,
Ask it whatever you want.
yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That's a fun practical application too, and we love a little proselytizing, you know. I'm just kidding. But it's great. What was sort of just out of curiosity, your partner's reservations about AI, like initially, what were sort of the strongest objections? I'm curious just because I encounter this every day too in my personal life as well as professionally.
He's just not a tech guy. Like we're very sort of like I'm like, corporate tech woman and he's like carpenter, landscaper, man of the wild. And so he's just always been a little like tech phobic. And so with all the AI stuff, he's like, I don't need that in my life. I'm never going to use AI ever. And so I've been trying to explain to him like, yeah, it doesn't, need to take over. And we've also seen impacts to people we know, lost jobs and all, like we've seen impacts. And so, but I've also tried to explain like it can be useful. Like this would have taken us so much time to research website by website by website, vendor by
Yeah.
vendor, and yet we were able to do this in like 30 minutes just while you're cooking dinner and I'm sitting here and we're talking through the whole thing. Boom, bam, boom. Like there's going to be some convenience here that we need to get on board with. So,
Yeah, it's a great use case. Sounds like the perfect blend of physical and digital worlds there for yeah, practical project. Did anyone else have something to share or reflection? I know a couple people were out last week. Did anyone else play with Notebook? Christian?
No, like I put in the chat, so I feel very bad, also very sad. Honest question, do you think it's possible to catch up? Because I literally, since the onboarding session one, and yeah, the world went crazy in our little startup,
Yeah,
and I haven't
no
gotten
worries.
around.
Yeah,
Christian, I think you wouldn't have very much trouble at all if you just dedicated to watch the class and you just tinker in another window while you watch the class. Like, I think you'll be right up to speed. I don't think you'll be left behind, but we can come up with some alternatives if you feel like that's not the case or you can't find the time to watch the videos. But we put the videos
Oh
also
well,
like the full transcripts up there, and you've got some basic AI skills now. So drop the transcript in and be like, what's the three things I need to learn from this week to not get left behind or something like that, you know? And
okay,
yeah, that's
yeah,
what I would do. I'd be like, here's the three classes I missed. Just give me an hour's worth of exercises to get me up to speed.
okay, sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely do it. Thank you.
right on. Okay, well, we will jump into it unless other folks have questions or anecdotes about some of the homework stuff, but there's plenty of time to catch up. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to tinker, there is plenty of time. Today, we will be focusing on vibe coding. It is actually week 4. This is also a good time to do a little bit of a CTA and reminder to sign up for some coaching sessions, and maybe Kris can pop those in the chat as well. But it's a perfect time if you are feeling, either behind or like you want to go and drill down a little deeper with something that you're tinkering with, and what you might explore for your final capstone. So please do find some time with us over the next week or so. It would be great to check in. I've checked in with a number of y'all. It's been great. Let's keep those coming. All right. So today's flow, we're actually going to roll up our sleeves and get into some vibe coding. So, can I see a show of hands, or maybe in the chat would be easier? Has anyone vibe coded before? We also define vibe coding, don't worry, although it's tough. Um, just try to read the room here. So, anyone vibe coded before? No. Okay. Seeing lots of head shake. Okay, great. Well, you're in for a treat because we get to be some of the first to introduce you to it then. Awesome. All good. So, yeah, we can talk a little bit about sort of the power of vibe coding, but I think we'll probably be best suited by showing you a little bit of what it's all about. And again, um, what are some of the things that we might do? I guess let's define vibe coding. Vibe coding is essentially a new way of creating anything in the digital world through just natural language prompts, whether it's English, Spanish, Hindi, it's spoken or written, normal text language for us non-coders to be able to really have an interface into creating apps, Chrome extensions, Slack bots, you name it, desktop applications, websites, slide decks, infographics, hub, like all sorts of cool things. If you can imagine it or have always sort of wondered, man, how did they build that? I'd like to do something like that. Well, you're in luck because now is the time to really have a much more sort of accessible on-ramp into creating things digitally that you might not have ever thought possible. So this is sort of, I think, how I would summarize it. I don't know if Kris has any other words to add here.
my favorite way of thinking about vibe coding these days is just turning things into other things, taking, the log files from my website and vibe coding up a dashboard, or taking a keynote I gave last week and building like a standalone website compendium with all the materials and stuff. So that's how I'm using it, is to translate things into other things.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And that's what we're going to be doing today as well. So we're going to be playing around initially for our activity with a site called Lovable.dev. And I can actually just drop that in the chat real quick. Don't play around with it quite yet, but do check it out. And you might need to sign up real quick. All you need is an email. It's a very quick sign up process. And you do have a limited number of credits, so save it for the activity once we go through and show you some examples and have a template and stuff. But again, this is also allowing us to prototype anything really fast in almost real time and communicate with our colleagues, stakeholders, partners, clients, in near sort of instant, feedback loops here. So there's a lot of different ways that we could use this for PR and communications. They're almost limitless. And this is really also some of maybe the biggest challenge here is the opportunities are nearly endless, right? And so people often say, well, what do I vibe code? Where do I get started? And there's a lot of ways to get started. Here are some of the popular tools here that you may have or may not have heard of. Again, Lovable is the one that I think is one of the most accessible. It's how I kind of got started. And there's others here, Versal, Replit, Bolt.new. These are all really exploding. It's also worth acknowledging that Claude Code now is basically sort of eating into this space. All of these run on different models and have slightly, different sort of versions of basically the same thing. And we'll talk about and actually look at that real quick in a minute here. But let's see. One of the things to look at, and maybe I'll show real quick here. Whoopsie. Don't need to show you all the logos here one by one. This is not sponsored content. I'm going to reshare. But I was just going to show you kind of the overall interface of, here we go. Do-do-do. My Zoom is blocking this X. Okay, there we go. Here we go. So let's just cut to the chase. We're going to do some demos and talk about this by showing it. And I'm going to hop over into Lovable, which again is really what all of these different tools look like, right? They start with a chat interface here, and similarly to all the other ones you've seen, you can add attachments. You can also, set sort of design styles and have connectors to third-party things. Many, many options there as connectors to other places. We're not gonna, need to worry about that or databases today, or even the design sort of template stuff. We're just gonna play around with turning one thing into another thing with some attachments here. But there's typically a couple different modes, planning and building modes in most of these tools now. Um, you'll see that we have sort of a library of projects, right? Down below here that we can check out. And you can see that I have a bunch of different ones here. One that I'll showcase is in this tab. There's actually a student project through coaching, and this is part of the student's capstone project last fall in our Creative Pros class. But this entire site, I'll actually show you here on the left-hand side. This is actually the chat window, and I can take you through kind of the whole process of what we were able to do very quickly in less than an hour to bring an Instagram sort of couple screenshots for a Yaxwool sock company that she was starting with her husband and turn it into an actual sort of website and online store in just a few minutes and few quick prompts, right? And so what did we start with? So we started with some visuals. These are directly from their Instagram, some logos here. nothing too fancy, as well as this kind of nice little infographic with a bit of a vibe here. And I took those and actually started with putting those into ChatGPT and asking for its own take on what using these three images would be a brand guide, right, visually to use. And so I attached that here. You'll see, hey, make this an amazing landing page and website to sell socks. And I popped in what ChatGPT said after it looked at those three images and identified the themes, right, visually here and communication wise, brand personality. Like this was work that hadn't been done, right? It was just an Instagram. They were selling on Instagram, right? Very limited. Um, and they hadn't done any of this work. And so this was a quick chat GBT exercise, yeah, to get a really quick and dirty sort of primary logo, which it actually, you can see it reimagined their logo. They like this one better after this initial run here. But all of these tools have the preview window on the right-hand side here, as well as the chat on the left-hand side where we can actually interface and iterate with the actual AI agent that is building the site. So this is a really cool way of interacting. So you'll see I had a pretty sort of extensive, in this case, one pager with the brand guidelines. It cranked out a version of this. It said, hey, here's what I'm thinking, right? Which it will usually do. Are you ready to create this? And yes, we had it spin this up as sort of what we call a one-shot single prompt go here. And so this is in a really simple example what it created. It even did some research about this particular brand and where they're sourced from, and was able to actually also create sort of a online store that looks a lot like something that Shopify might have. And we could have integrated this with something like Shopify too if we wanted to as a storefront, right? Or wherever else. This isn't fully connected yet, but would not be difficult to simply pop in, some of our information from a Shopify into the chat here and have it connect the dots for us, right? And so this was a cool example. I'm going to pass it over to Kris, who has a bunch as well. Any questions on this while we're handing the baton over, so to speak? This is what you'll be doing soon here as well in the activity.
What do you think
That's
of
a
what
better
you're looking?
website that I could have built, in probably a month for them, frankly.
Okay, well, I'll take the reins and show some stuff. When I am showing stuff here in a second, I would maybe encourage you for the first little vibe coding thing you do to maybe just go to your LinkedIn and grab your PDF of your LinkedIn profile and bring that into Lovable and say, based on my LinkedIn profile, vibe code me up a personal portfolio website for X job or role or something like that. That would be a great exercise of watching it turn what we're very familiar with, our resume and our career, into a full kind of vibe coded website. You could say make it look like Apple, or you could say, these are my three influential heroes, and I would like to build a website, in the lineage of those types of websites or something like that. So we're going to experiment a little with prompting today around vibe coding. And I think that resume is a great place to start. But you're also welcome to grab any other big, gnarly document or data set you might have. I suggested earlier the website logs. I love when someone sends me statistics or reports or a data set, just dropping that into a vibe coding tool and say, build me a dashboard on top of this. And that's what I'm going to show you a couple examples of right here. Here we go. So this should just look familiar from where Peter had you a second ago. Let me just shut down.
Lovable home
Yeah.
page, yeah.
And another thing I wanted to point out. So these down below the fold, you're starting to see all these different projects I've been vibe coding. And I just took a look. I've been doing it for about like 15 months now. There's like over 100 projects here that I've thrown together for various reasons along the way. And you'll start to see what I'm talking about. So, and I was also noticing like, I did one on March 27th, and then a few days before that, March 30th. Every couple days or so, I'm finding things to build. So this site right here called RecOS is a tool for managing creative studio spaces. I sat down with an entrepreneur 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, and he runs a creative space that requires, booking of all their different venues and rooms, and he's got members to manage and stuff like that. And he talked to me for about 15 minutes about his idea. And I recorded and transcribed it. And that's what I started with right here. Is just the transcription of me and his talk. And look how amateur my prompt is. I'm like, yo, build all this. So everything was coming out of this conversation I had about this tool that he needed in order to manage his creative space and his members. And so then, I just went through and started to mock up how all the different parts could work, including like building out the pricing section. And I showed it back to him on this phone call that we were having before the end of the call. And he had some pretty significant feedback. He's like, I've never really thought of that in terms of the tiered pricing thing and the custom licenses and stuff. And so just what I'm trying to say is that I am not encouraging him to go launch this website today as his website, but just simply seeing his ideas in this format with the structure around it gave him the ability to reflect more deeply upon it and to really drill down into what he actually needed and wanted for this tool. So this was like 2 hours of back and forth with the thing. It can make images for you here as well. Down in the Lovable interface here, Peter kind of was showing you, and I've showed you that you can attach things and talk about stuff, prompt it, but you can also just change certain areas. So like right now, I clicked on this little pointer button, select to edit, and then I'm going in, I just want to change this one image right here. And so it's pulling up the code for that particular image right there. I think. Here we go. So let's say
taking its time here. But yeah, this is sweet. So this is kind of a blend of almost like a traditional type of editor with what the AI has spun up. So you can edit
right here,
typography.
I'm like, let's just animate this hero section. I've selected this blue zone. And so now I can just prompt directly into that one particular hero graphic there at the top. We'll double back and see what it came up with in a second. Another project that I've been having a lot of fun with lately is doing media monitoring dashboards for a few different projects. So I'm going to the Olympics in LA. I've gone to the last few Olympics, and I do some media studies there around like citizen journalism and outsider media and stuff. And so I've set up this dashboard now to start to analyze who's talking out there, like what channels are
we being rickrolled right now?
This is a real-time feed based on what other people are already out there publishing on LA Olympics right now. And these are like fully interactive graphs and charts. If you can describe what you want with your words, the tool can build it. And if you can even describe it incorrectly, it can give you something that you can then react to. So I built a little sentiment analysis widget over here, and some engagement metrics by different type of media that's coming out, the mainstream media, the athletes, etc. So just to, again, this is essentially like 100 RSS feeds coming into one dashboard, and then me being able to do some analysis on top of that. Let's see what else we got going here. This is a project I'm really proud of. I work with the Indigenomics Institute here in Canada, which is an Indigenous economic reconciliation organization. Essentially, the premise is a lot of the contributions that Indigenous Canadians make to the economy isn't counted for by GDP. So the big boss lady had me scan all of Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook for mentions of a few important keywords like Indigenous entrepreneurship and her own hashtag, the Indigenomics hashtag, and then to bring in all the data that I found on those hashtags just into like a CSV, like a comma separated spreadsheet, and then to show that back in a dashboard. So essentially, what you're looking at here is scraped Twitter and LinkedIn data on a few keywords shown back in a dashboard where I can analyze the types of content that is being found when I search on those things, such as land transfer, capital alignment, procurement, et cetera, et cetera. And uh, you can even get into some crazy 3D stuff. This one might not render right now because I was just building it last night. This is a media monitoring dashboard that I built, not for the Olympics, but just for brands and things that I'm interested in. So I can go in and I can plug in different topics, and it's monitoring these Vancouver and Canadian sources for mentions of my nonprofit that I run, the BC AI ecosystem. It's monitoring my competitors, telling me what's going on for them. And it is just intended to be something that I can look at in the mornings at a glance to understand all the media that's coming out of my segment here that I'm interested in. This is a more fun project that I built. This is a Cajun AI Identity Simulator. I was working with a newsroom in Louisiana who had done a bunch of interviews with Cajun and Creole elders in their community. And then we turned the interviews into these AI chatbots. Essentially, you can talk to different people in the community directly based on the interviews as the knowledge base underneath. Tell me about the coastal erosion in your area. And it goes into the knowledge base and grabs some stuff out of there and returns it. So anyway, I think that's probably, you kind of get the drift. This was a band website that I coded up. This was last month's vibe coding class. I took the transcript and threw it into here and built a little vibe coding 101 tool like overview with all the curriculum in it. So really just the point is taking things and reimagining them as new things, or taking ideas and then articulating them through building an interface, app, or dashboard for that tool. Oh, Lisa, you haven't read my blog post called "The $1,000 a month in software as a service services that it takes to be a modern knowledge worker," have you?
I have not. Just trying to get a kind of a range or an idea of, because I don't love Claude, but maybe Claude paid is better. I don't know. So is that something I should start thinking about? What's a good range or tokens or what have you?
Yeah. I mean, it really begs the question, like, so my recommendation or like my approach is I try to have a best in class tool in the main different categories. So one of the main foundational models I pay for, whether that's ChatGPT or OpenAI, those are kind of, or sorry, ChatGPT or Anthropic, those are the two choices. I have to do transcription of all my meetings. So I need to use the AI for that. So I've got a paid transcription tool. I've got my main paid AI tool. And then I've got a vibe coding tool, and that's Lovable. So I'm paying for that one as well. You know, I do pay for quite a few tools. And you know, I guess one thing I want to say more philosophically is like, this kind of gets into the future of work stuff in some ways when people talk about like, you're not going to be replaced, AI is not going to replace your job, you're going to replace by someone who knows how to use AI. Well, what do they mean specifically? Well, I envision a future where my 10 employees come into work each day and they each get 1 million tokens to spend to do their job using AI. And the people that perform well will get 10% more tomorrow, and the people that don't perform that well will get 10% less. And I guess what I'm trying to say vis-a-vis the question about how much stuff you pay for is like putting together a stack of tools that you like and that you're familiar with that you can eventually run as efficiently as possible is going to be probably one of the creative challenges that we all have to figure out in our careers. Is like, how can I get the most output out of these tools the most efficiently, whether that's dollars or time or tokens. These will be the factors. I think of it as like a bunch of train conductors, making sure the trains run on time, moving tracks around, putting AI queries out on cheap channels when they're available and more expensive, powerful tools when they're needed. So this is like kind of how I envision things going for a lot of us knowledge workers. And I can't see
So
the
you
chat.
didn't answer the question. So, like, I mean,
Oh,
is it like,
it's
and I'm
not
just saying, like,
fair. It's
I
not
don't mean
fair.
real doll, like, so I just looking at the Lovable, right? So there's the free, and then there's the business, and then there's the enterprise. So if it's like, let's say I wanted to do like a small website, not a lot. So is
Yeah.
that the business, not the pro, or obviously
I
the
always
enterprise?
I always start at the basic, and then when I hit the cap, if I'm getting value out of it, I move up from there. So I would never go to a new tool and buy like an annual enterprise plan. I always go in there. I start with the free plan, which you're going to do today. You're probably going to hopefully exhaust your credits by the end of the course today, and then you get to ask yourself, is this personal website that I'm building, or is this vibe coded dashboard worth $30 to me? If so, sign up for the first, level and go from there. When I think about it as like subscriptions every month, it feels intimidating. When I think about it like, would I pay $30 to build this Manda website? I'm like, yeah, that's worth it.
Yeah, okay, that helps.
But to answer your question, and I was claiming that it's not fair, I probably spend over $1,000 a month, but we're talking my newsletter tool, all of my web hosting stuff, but my
Yeah.
subscriptions have added up. It's true. And every 3 months or so, I'm doing an audit on my software as a service to
Yeah.
make sure that I ratchet it back down, because it creeps up as you're doing projects, and then you got to ratchet it back down over time as you're no longer using those things quite as much.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
My spend is pretty similar. I think I probably have, for example, $500 a month, and that can easily go up to 1,000 if I'm not really careful. Things like HeyGen for video avatar experiments, things like 11 Lab for voice cloning. Like, I have multiple vibe coding subscriptions, right? Like, this gets really out of hand for the experimentation part of a lot of what we do. In terms of like the ones that I feel like I can't live without, I would say Claude. I pay $100 a month for the max plan version of that one, and I use that for writing for a lot of the vibe coding type stuff here too that we're talking about today. I think it's great for many different purposes, but I also I guess I would consider Fireflies or transcriptor tools as part of this stack that's really critical for me too. Um, but yeah, Kris is exactly. We're thinking about the same parts of the stack here too. But yeah, it might be different. We don't encourage you to go out and spend $500 a month or even $100 a month for any of these. Like start with, one for $20 a month, and you might be able to even vibe code in it increasingly. That's something that's possible, right? And that these ChatGPT and Claude are basically trying to become lovable. They're trying to become Replit, and they're kind of halfway there, but it's a major risk actually for the lovables out there in the market right now because the sort of providers of the models that have been powering right under the hood, Lovable and Replit, are now realizing, wow, there's a big market opportunity there, and they're getting their knives out and sharpening them to try to build their own version of it. So it might be coming soon to Claude and ChatGPT. It's basically, in progress right now. It's very, very clear. And so we're going to see probably some, we're already seeing actually an acquisition of, I think, was it Replit or Sale? I can't even remember, but it's really wild out there. Blood is in the water already, but it's great news for us because they're going to, continue to, I think, be important tools and get.
I want to add one more thing. I know that a lot of people in this call haven't done this before, and it has the word coding in it. And do not use that as any obstacle to not engage. Coding part has been solved. This is the news that's rocking the internet right now, is that like coding as it was once known is solved. All engineers who are at the highest level have not written a line of code in the last year. They are fully moved into these agentic spaces and managing the environments, the security, the users, the features, not worrying about the code anymore. So don't please let that word or the perception that this is a technical thing, because actually y'all have way more to gain from this part of the revolution right now than almost anyone, because You're thinkers and doers and strategists and tacticians who don't need to know the technical coding bit anymore. If you can articulate your users' need, features you want, things that are on your mind, you now get the power that was formerly, in the hands of the coding technical priesthood, essentially. You now have all that power. So please dig in, tinker around, and don't let the coding word throw you off.
I see a hand up. Yeah, Michelle.
I have a couple questions. So my first question is, when you go to the site and start to build the page, is it basically private until you make it public? Like, Chris, some of the pages you had that you said, like, this is just my page. I assume like that's just personal for you to go look at, but then like a band's page is public, or like it is. I assume like as you're building it, it's private until you want it to be public, and then when it's public, is the domain like lovable dot blah blah blah, so people are seeing that it is a vibe coded page, if you will, because the domain is like a lovable website, or can
Yeah,
you then change it to a www dot yak socks or whatever, like Peter, you were talking about?
I love where your mind is going. This is like the perfect place to go. So you're like, yeah, I built something. It's cool. And now what? Like, is this private? And so yes, it's definitely private until you use something called like deploy or move to production or something like that. So it's private behind your account until you say so. Then if you want to deploy it, you have a couple different options. You mentioned one, deploy it to that vibe coder server. So it's like Kris.Lovable.dev is the URL. Once you've got it up there, you can then share it with people. You can either do the like security by obscurity thing that we all do in like Google Docs, where we share the link with only people who have the link, or you can do the one where it like drops it off in the public zone and gets search engine indexed and all the rest. But that's not really the end either, because that's not the only ways we want to consume sites, is either on the, hosted service or privately. So yeah, you can easily add domains. In fact, I added domains to two of my projects this morning, where I registered www.whatever.com and then pointed it at my Lovable site. So those are options as well. But then like other permutations of that are available also. Like you could vibe code a site, publish it to a custom domain on the internet, but have part of what you vibe coded be a password protection thing, or people have to know the password to get through the door, or they have to sign up via a form to get to the backside. You could vibe code a user registration, like here's a lead magnet. Someone has to go to a form and fill out these things and hit submit, and then they get access to the next page. So really, this is where I kind of say, like, if you can talk out how you want it to work, the tool can do it exactly. And this is also the iterative part too, which is like, you may not realize at first, oh, putting it behind a little bit of a registration site like a lead magnet's a great idea. So you can be like, add this once you've launched it and stuff like that. But yeah, you're thinking right along. Oh, and one more thing. I've been getting so many of my non-technical coaching clients to start GitHubs lately, like github.com, which is a code repository. Traditionally, the realm of coders and developers, it's where code lives. It's like a library. It's how geeks share code back and forth. But all of these tools connect to GitHub. So what does that mean? You could go to ChatGPT and you could talk to ChatGPT and say, I want to build a personal portfolio site. I'm going to go to my LinkedIn and grab my resume, but I'm not doing that yet. Let's just build a full specification and project structure for this new website I'm going to build in 15 minutes. And it does all the work or whatever and comes up with something very awesome. And then you could be like, okay, now put this in a new GitHub repo, a new GitHub repository, which is where the code lives. Now you can pop over into the tool like Lovable and you can say, go to my GitHub where ChatGPT just built a specification for a really cool website for me, and let's make an interface for that thing. And Lovable makes the interface for you, and it looks great. I want it to look like Apple. I want it. And then you say to the thing, okay, now push that interface back to the GitHub, because you always want all your code to live kind of somewhere in the middle that can talk to all these different things. So now you could like complete the circle by going back to ChatGPT, and you could say, yo, ChatGPT, I had Lovable build the website that you dreamed up. It is in my GitHub. Go look at it and audit it and write up the project documentation for me, or write up the social media launch campaign for me, or write up an email newsletter about this website for me. So this is like really where you start to unlock the power of like GitHub is the glue that allows you to tie best in class ChatGPT thinking and strategy to best in class interface design inside Lovable, and back and forth again in a virtuous circle. Thanks for all
So a
the
couple
nods. Thanks for all the nods, Dan. I feel like I'm on a rant here, but you're getting it. I appreciate it.
So GitHub basically, yeah, to kind of, I guess, reframe it also here, if you see my screen on Lovable, it allows you to basically store your code after you make something awesome and Lovable, or set something up to then, even before you build, as Kris was saying, that you can automatically send all your code to. That allows you to decide where it lives, store versions of it, port it over if you decide, I'm done with Lovable. But I love that project there. It can easily, because it's been synced to GitHub and all of the actual code behind it is there basically in the cloud. You can then work with Replit or Cloud Code or whatever using that you've backed up. And so you can see you can sync it here in the upper right hand corner there. There's also ways, to your point, I think, Michelle, to be able to actually really quickly add a custom domain. And you'll see that it's not published yet, so I can't really do that. But if you have a GoDaddy, for example, or if you have a domain you've bought anywhere, you can directly log into GoDaddy or other wherever you own that domain and just simply log in and sync everything so it lives on the domain. It's super simple. You don't have to go through, for example, the process of popping in like CNAME records and text files. And like those are like um, very, very much a thing of the past as well, technically. So it's easier than ever to, with these vibe coding tools, using GitHub store and all of your code and be able to port it anywhere, as well as to be able to directly, what we call, deploy it and publish it to a real domain you own, like very easily. So it's super powerful. We won't get hung up on the details of that now. That's definitely a conversation for coaching, but um, in the meantime, would love to hop into the activity. We do have a doc prepped here. Let's see, with instructions. I think I tossed it into the chat. I see one person there. So we're going to spend some time in breakout rooms and partner pairs, going through and doing this, right, in Lovable. We're going to spend about 15, 20 minutes with Lovable. And as Kris mentioned, we're going to start with one of two things, right? We can start with, a traditional article, a blog post, a website, could even be your LinkedIn profile, as the beginning of your project in Lovable, right? Or we could start with a data set, right? Something that is a little wonkier, also very cool. And again, our prompt might be this simple, right? You can also choose your own adventure here. You don't have to use this template, but build an interactive XYZ that shows whatever it is. It could be, build a personal website based on my LinkedIn profile that matches this, creator's vibe, and you screenshot that, right? There's a lot of different ways to explore. There's no right or wrong way, but you can use this prompt directly if you would like, to get pointed in a direction. And then you can follow these steps here. If you haven't created an account yet, go ahead and do that. Upload whatever you decide to start with and start tinkering with it. You'll see that it might take a few minutes to get your site back, right? From scratch, it could take 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how complex and how much stuff you give it. And so keep that in mind as you get going here too. It's easy to iterate, but it does take tokens and credits to do that. So anyway, pros and cons of putting a lot in the prompt at first. It might take a little longer to generate, but if you iterate, you might run out of credits, and then you might want to again pop over to Versal or another one of these vibe coding tools to play with a different version of it. in the second part of our activity. So, any questions on this? We're gonna unleash you onto Lovable here in a minute. I can't see anyone, so because I'm screen sharing.
It's all good, Peter. Let's move on to the exercise.
Great.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. That way faster than anything I could do personally.
Yeah.
What did you
So
make?
I guess that
Can
I
you
made
screen share?
a PDF. I think so.
That'd be awesome. We're just gonna kind of check in with folks and see how it went for everyone.
I mean, I'm a little bit different than I'm not. I'm in a little bit of IT, but not quite. So I'm in web accessibility, and a lot of problems with web accessibility is dealing with PDFs that they're not accessible,
For sure.
and it's very expensive to have a PDF made accessible. So there's
Mm,
EPUB, right? And the WCAG organization just bought it, so they're licensing it for free, so people make products. So
mm.
turn a PDF into an EPUB ebook, right? So it created this interface where you drop in the PDF here. And then I asked later, because I wanted to say, I want a reader with it as well. I want an e-reader. So then they
Okay.
said they built in an e-reader after conversion read now button opens with pagination. So yeah,
Does it work?
I'm at work, so I can't use it. So I'll try it at home,
Got it.
but it should, because if they're, I looked at the files, right?
Hmm.
So it shows their files,
That's so
right? So
wild.
that,
Yeah.
I
Amazing.
mean, there'd be no way I could have done. I mean, I just
Oh
have
yeah. No.
no way.
And
Yeah,
it doesn't even matter really what's in here, like if it works, right? Like to be
yeah,
honest, right? So,
yeah.
and hopefully it does. You should report back next class
I
after you're
will.
able to test it out. But
I
you
will.
built an accessibility tool in 10
Right.
minutes. Amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. I mean, it's amazing, but way better than I tried Claude. And I'm sorry, I'm probably dunking on Claude too much, but I
That's okay.
asked them to look at a navigation of a website, and I put in the guidelines for what the navigation was supposed to do, and Claude kept saying it doesn't have a skip link. It doesn't have a skip link. I'm like, I didn't ask you about the skip link. I asked you about the navigation, and it kept telling me. So, and I kept saying I don't care, and I put it in, and it wouldn't. And so maybe that's the difference between Claude free and not free. I don't know.
Yeah, it
So
depends on the
yeah,
model you're using too, but thanks so much for sharing, Lisa.
sure, sure.
Can I pick on you, Alexa? Can you show what you spun up? That was awesome. I was able to pop
Yeah, of
around to
course.
just one room so far, but
No problem. So as I'm sharing, last week I had a meeting with this foundation called Jubalong, and they sent me a bunch of
that's an amazing name, by the
You guys have
way.
probably seen some of their billboards. They're giant pink with just white writing on it, just white words. And they sent me a PowerPoint with all their statistics from Kansas City. They had a bunch of their billboards out. And because Kansas City doesn't have that many Jews and just they don't really know that much about anti-Semitism, they did targeted statistics on that and came back with
Mhm.
some really interesting percentages. And so I just that was like the most recent data set that I had. So I decided to put this in very straightforward prompt, very simple prompt. And I didn't even ask or tell it what to look like. It just came out with the same format that Jubalong does have, that pink, black, and white. And then Christian and I decided to just ask if there was any way we can incorporate animation in here. And so it did. It's not really showing you too much now, but before when you would scroll on these to these pages,
Mhm.
it was more animated.
Do
But
me a favor, click on do you see the refresh button at the t very top center of this next to the arrow? Over right. Keep
we're
going.
going the wrong way.
No,
This
keep
one.
going. Yeah, try that one. Because then it
Oh,
might work. This is basically refreshing the live preview. So
I think
boom,
you're
look at
right.
that.
Yes,
Nice. And let's see.
beautiful.
Oh, this is epic.
That's
Nice
awesome.
animations.
There we
Wow.
go.
And so that was a secondary prompt right after you just said,
Hmm.
"Hey, can you like animate it?" That's all you said
That's it.
basically.
Yep. Is there any way to incorporate animation? And it did in pretty much every
Wow.
place that it was able to.
This is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Nice. Who else wants to share? It's okay if yours didn't turn out awesome. Sometimes they just suck. It's just kind of like a little bit of a mystery box, to be honest, a lot of times.
I'll do it. It was pretty amazing. So can I share?
Yeah, please do.
All right. Well, basically, I so briefly before I share, I have a totally outdated 7-year-old personal website that featured my branding was as a writer and editor,
Yeah, you and
you
me
know,
both. This sounds very familiar.
and then I have my LinkedIn, which was up to date. So I wanted the website,
Mhm.
which I've been putting off for months, years really. So I'll start with the I have all three here teed up. So I'll start with the old website.
I've been working through my meant to do it for the last few years list as well, Dan.
And I always thought, I was like, God, it was a project in 2019 to create this. So this was my site. Oh, you see, wait, I gotta not show you my whole page. Let's try. Stop that. Sorry. Back to.
So I think we saw on the screen your previous site then briefly.
I'm trying to just, yeah, that's what I wanted. All right, whatever. I don't know how to. No, here we go. That's my previous site. So then, so you get the idea. Because I wanted the style I wanted was this because I liked it,
Hmm.
what they
Yeah,
did. I liked what this designer did, this
sure.
web designer,
Hmm.
and so I wanted to mimic my own style. So
Yeah.
okay, so now I'm going to stop that, and then I sharing. So what I did is from my LinkedIn page, which my
Hmm.
branding is much more up to date. All the stuff I've been doing as a doing the content marketing, senior editor stuff, but really putting together bigger projects. So I branded myself this way for my job hunt because I was laid off in January. I've been looking for a job, which I got on the
Hmm.
start, but that's not the point. But this is what I was so I branded myself this way. Okay. So now I asked to make a new website with this type of branding and the larger projects that I've led with teams to create what I'm doing now and with that old visual style. So that's what I'm going to show
And
next.
did you download the PDF of your LinkedIn profile?
Oh, I didn't even do that. I just said, look
Okay,
at,
so
he
you
gave it
can do
the,
that.
I
In
forgot
those
that
three
part.
dots, if you go back and screen share, I'll show you how, because this is probably useful to a number of people here. Um,
Sure.
it's
Let
a
me,
fun way to play around. And
okay.
it will
So back
basically
in here.
export, yeah, so three dots next to enhance profile at the sort of underneath your name, middle of the page there, three dots. Yep, rewrite at it. Yeah. Save to PDF.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So this is an additional thing you can throw into the chat, right? And say, hey, fill it out more with this.
Okay.
And it will have in like, the about me, the experience sections, right, et cetera, for everything. And oh yeah, I guess you're gonna show us here what it has. But
Well,
yeah, so
I,
it'll
I
use all
figured
of
I had to
this.
download this, right, to get it. I mean, and then I would go
Mhm.
from there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
or you could
So I
just
would just
copy and paste it over. Yep, a number
oh,
of
you
ways.
could do that too. Oh, all
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyway, um, there it exists. I'll come up in a second. So I'm gonna just, although it's like it's setting it out in a format different than LinkedIn, but it has the information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so I'm gonna just screenshot it. Is that what you're
Yeah,
basically
that's
saying?
perfect. You can do that. There's no right or wrong way. Yep,
All
it'll
right.
figure it out. That's the
Okay.
beauty.
So but it only has some of the information. Do I want all of it? If it
I
depends how
mean, this is,
small.
I guess, up to you. Do you want all of it on your website?
I do actually, because it has a bunch of, well, oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I
I mean,
would.
kind of up to about 10 years ago, right? Let's just say
Mhm.
that. So I'll just give it a go, right? So I go down oh, it's gonna, yeah, I gotta do multiple screenshots or something. So it's
Yeah,
too
and that's fine. You
small.
can toss in multiple screenshots. And so this
Uh-huh.
you all could do as well if you like found a really great visual sort of aesthetic from a different website, right, that you really like, screenshotting it, and popping it into the chat either as part of the first prompt or an iterative one. Hey, turn it into this style or incorporate this content. Great way to do that too. So, um,
Well, anyway, let me show what it
yeah,
created.
show us. And
Really
yes, sorry for the
cool.
detour,
Yeah,
guys,
no,
but
no, I
just
know it's so. Uh, it was kind of freaky, and you'll see why in a second. Because it created a weird AI picture of me.
Uh, that's really
Which freaked me out a little bit, but I got
you,
over it.
you gotta upload it. That's really funny.
Anyway, I don't know what happened here. Um,
Yeah, we
so
can see it.
yeah, and then and the actual pages on that site. So the branding is from LinkedIn. It's kind of combined the branding, old and new, and then even like the about page is a little different. It has like pulled from LinkedIn over here, so that's pretty cool. And so kind of combined them. And anyway, yeah.
Love it. This is great. Anyone else want to show and tell here? I guess your homework will be to iterate on this, but I'm curious, we have just over 10 minutes left. Like what questions are coming up? Does anyone else want to workshop or show and tell? Would love to see another one, even if you're not proud of it. Maybe especially if you're not proud of it. And we can talk about how we might want to pivot it. And again, it's a bit of a mystery box sometimes, right? Depending on how these are not predictive models, right? They're just you can't necessarily anticipate what they're going to churn out.
My one question is like, I mean, I could just give natural language, keep interacting with it, and have it refine all that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So using that sidebar chat on the left-hand side, that's where you'll see a plus button again to upload those attachments of the screenshots or PDFs or put in additional context. Yeah, you can go back and forth.
Okay.
You're gonna hit the pretty soon here. Hey, you got to pay us $30 a month or 20 or whatever it is now. But it might be worth it depending.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
That's how they get you. Allison, how'd it go for you? I'm just gonna pick on people.
Oh, sorry. Good. I built one. I was in Dan's group. I was very impressed with what Dan created in what, 3 months, Dan? You were waiting to do this
Oh
and you
my
did it in
God, that
15
that
minutes.
site is so outdated. I've thought of it for 6 years of updating, but I had a job until I was laid off in January. Then I wanted to
Yeah.
update it, but I didn't for 3 months. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was kind of in awe of Dan. But what I did was I used the prompt. I just put in the PDF of my LinkedIn profile and asked it to create uh, turn my LinkedIn profile into a more interactive and engaging experience if I wanted to attract new career opportunities. And I fed it that, and then I also fed it my it's silly, my personal brand narrative that I've been working on. And it created a little website. It's not great, but it's something. Um, so I guess I can share my screen. Hopefully it will share.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be great.
can you all see this? A little bit?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Wow.
this is obviously not me.
Yes, I
Um,
guess one tip for everyone is like include a headshot if you're doing a personal website. Yeah.
yeah, this is
Download it
not
from
me.
LinkedIn even. Yeah, as a PNG, whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I guess she's very attractive, but yeah, this one that was a AI generated. And so it kind of created this little site, um, which is kind of interesting, I guess. I thought it was cool that it brings in things that I've been tinkering around with in my about, for my LinkedIn and stuff. I don't know, the PR as a data operation, that's a new one, but it worked with it worked with that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then it kind
Ooh, I
of
like the
created this,
timeline. That's pretty cool.
yeah, it's cool because it's definitely a more interactive way, a more interactive um way to look through a resume, which I thought is kind of cool. When you're thinking about how to stand out, if you're
Mhm.
looking for career opportunities or just, I constantly am updating my resume.
Yeah, of
And I'm
course.
always trying to think about how to stand out. So this is, yeah, kind of cool. I don't know if it's great, but it's kind of cool, and I'm excited to keep tinkering around with it.
Yeah, it's a first step, right? And so, maybe, yeah, your capstone even for both of y'all is just like continuing iterating upon this, and yeah, taking it over the line to where you're ready to, publish it to a domain and you feel comfortable with that, right? That would be a worthy one. Or maybe
Yep.
that's part of it. So, um, all right, who
Yes.
else?
No one tell my employer that I'm constantly updating my resume. That's a safe space, right?
I mean, they are too, like that's
They
true.
know. They know. Yeah.
So
But
Uh,
yeah, that's cool.
quick question. If I wanted to, let's say, I mean, I've got a great website. I love what she did with my website 7 years ago. I worked with her
mhm.
it took months back and forth and back and forth
Yeah,
trying to
of
get the
course.
inspections. But like, do you go back to someone like that who really knows what they're doing and say, here, what would you hand them? Would you work interactively with a person if you wanted to? I mean, or do you just not need that person? I don't know.
I mean, I guess you should tell us in about a week, after playing around with it. Do you feel like
Yeah.
you really need that, right? Or hitting the
Right.
sort of wall creatively or want that feedback? I mean, I don't think there's any like hard or fast rule or answer. It kind of depends on the project, but that designer probably can do things about 10 times as fast and as better than before too, if they're up to date.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
I
do you think,
find,
KK?
yeah, this is a great question, actually. I find that more often than replacing someone like the designer on my team, I'm using this as a way to use their resources more efficiently. So I take this thing as far as I can in the method that you're doing right now. And then I share that with the designer and I say, hey, it's been 7 years, been thinking about some updates. I've articulated all the things best I can into this prototype. I'd love it if you took your design sensibilities and then polished it off, finished it, and launched it for me or something like that. And you can imagine that, like, versus sitting down with a blank piece of paper with that designer, you're probably going to spend about 20% of the time and money getting what you need out of it. You still get their professional expertise, but you've walked yourself all the way there, really figuring out what you want and what you're asking for at the point at which you engage an illustrator or a video guy or a photographer. Like, you can take things pretty far down the road and turn that over to them. As sometimes I take your final product and I put it back into chat gpt and say, make a creative brief for my designer to make improvements like this one. And I instead of dropping them off the final project, which might be a little toe steppy, I reverse engineer it into a specification and then give them back the specification, something like that.
Well, that's really good. You reverse engineer and give them the specs because that's what they're used to getting. Right. Cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way where you can edit the text, or do you have to constantly keep prompting it? I'm
Don't
just thinking about
don't
like,
reprompt it.
Yeah.
Probably
don't
don't
reprompt it.
reprompt it unless you're so, like, I just turned a 1 week festival into a weekend festival. And in that case, I
Yes.
had it reprompt the thing across the whole board because it wasn't just the headlines, but it was the copy and the graphics and the timer and stuff like that. So in
Yeah.
those cases, you can prompt it. But if it's just on the hero section, if it says Tuesday, May 28th, and you
Same.
want it to say Wednesday, May 28th, that's where you go into that one little tool that you might have seen me show. It's like a little arrow. It's like a selector in the prompting zone, and then you click on the area that you want to change and you can prompt just that area. So it's like text change, and then you say your little prompt. Or do you see what I'm
Okay.
talking about?
Um,
I
I'm
think it'd
gonna,
be good to screen share real quick and show because you were there earlier, KK, and your
yeah,
do you want me to screen? Oh, he's screen share.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm just trying to get rid of the zoom artifacts here. 1 second. Down here, this little guy, select
Oh,
to edit. So I can click on that one and I can
very bottom
say
left. Yeah.
Cajun AI Identity Simulator by Krüg.
Nice. You're using Whisper. Oh yeah.
So ideally, it will only change that part because everything else works and I don't want it to go crazy. And so I'm just trying to change just that headline.
and is that just in the pro model, or is that in the free one too?
No, it's in the free one too. The only thing that is the difference between the pro and the free, as far as I know, is the amount of tokens that you receive.
Can
Yeah,
you
I
can
still
you
think you
show
get the
it one
features.
more time? Because I don't know if I see that. Sorry to waste everyone else's
Okay,
time.
you're not.
No, it's not. It's kind of hidden on the screen share here. Maybe you can zoom in like down left to where it is. It's basically over, yeah, in the chat bar. Yeah. Here we go.
This is the one I'm going for right
Yeah,
here.
there we go. Select to edit is
Select
the
to
button.
edit. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah,
and
and works similarly
it
in the other platforms if you decide to experiment with Versal or something else. So.
and you can see it just did what I said. AI Identity Simulator by Chris Krüg, and without changing all the other stuff.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yes, I see it. I got it to do it. Okay, cool.
Nice. Yeah, that'll save you on
Thank you.
tokens too. It'll be cheaper, obviously, to do it that
Well,
way.
and there's like a lesson here that I hope that I can extrapolate for y'all, which is like there are certain changes like that, and I was just describing this to somebody else on a different channel. Let's say you generate a graphic that you like and the words are slightly wrong. Trying to regenerate the graphic with the right words probably is going to be a brute force failure. But then just like taking that graphic into Canva, doing the magic text select thing where it turns text into editable text and then just changing the text with your keystrokes would be the right way to do that. I do that all the time. I'll generate 30 graphics. They'll say wonky things, but I want the layout and the design and the image, and so I just bring that into Canva, click the select all the text button, and then it all becomes editable.
Wait, so you're saying the text of an illustration or an infographic, you're editing the text by just pulling it out, editing it, and then it puts back in the image? Is that, or are you saying something else?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was actually doing that with an actual illustrator this morning, editing the text. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a whole new world with AI too, because you can take uneditable text, that used to be like raster and you can turn it into vectors with the click of a button and then just change the type. It's pretty crazy.
Nice. Any other questions, final thoughts, reflections? Like one of the last. Oh, Michelle, go for it.
I have a question about like if say someone has an idea, I have an idea for an app or a website, and I want to vibe code it. Like, uh, do we have any idea about like because I use this tool, they have some right to that idea, or other people can go and like see that idea or that idea for a website or an app or like there's a little part of me that's like, well, it's my idea. Is someone going to be able to steal this and do something with it or whatever? Is that like weird AI paranoia or does that
No,
exist?
not at all. So my take, and I'd love to hear Chris's on this too, is that basically IP and copyright does not really exist in the same way anymore by default because you can remix and rebuild anything out there in the world in nearly 10 minutes, right? As we're seeing here, right? And so the moat or like sort of the unique value offering is probably like in some ways the community around it, right? Chris and I talk about this all the time. The go-to-market strategy and actual like user connection, right? That is going to be the anchor, like more and more so when people can just remix an entire business or app, right, by screenshotting it and, you know, yeah, it's there are apps just for this actually. I can share one by email afterwards, but KK, what's your take on that? It's a great question, Michelle. It's definitely the right question.
I understood your question a little bit differently. It was more like around privacy and security of information that you put in here. And I use kind of like the Google Drive standard, which is like if I'd stick something on Google Drive without being worried about Google stealing that and making my idea, then I feel comfortable putting it into these other tools. So I don't think you're going to see your idea stolen and regurgitated as search results. But and it's not paranoia. I don't like that word because it's appropriate for you to be asking these questions. Like we're leaking data all these different places. So just asking like, what data am I making available and like where is it going is like a pretty useful lens to wear as you're going through this stuff. There's one button in all of the AIs that I always turn off. It's in the settings on ChatGPT and the preferences, and it's the same place everywhere, but it's like I don't let them train future models on my conversations. And I
Right.
just get a little bit of peace of mind from that. Even if I think if you have it turned on, you're not going to like see your particular, grandma's recipe that you put into AI be popping up on somewhere else or something like that, but that is the measuring stick I sort of use. I'm like, if I'd store this on Google Drive, I'm okay putting it in ChatGPT.
Cool. Helpful. Thanks.
Right on. Well, your homework is to continue tinkering with your project and curious to see. We'll check in at the beginning of next class how far people get and if folks have, quote unquote, finished website, which, finish line is always evasive, but curious to see how much progress people make. We'll send the recording and everything as well afterwards. So, yeah, excited for next week. We will be digging into, I think, some data stuff. And a reminder, yeah, 2 weeks from today is our final capstone project presentations where you all have show and tell. So, yep, start thinking about what that might look like. It might be vibe coded something. It might be a mixture of, some of the deep research, yeah, notebooks, all the other stuff we've talked about, assistance, could be showing a few of those things or going really deep on one. No right or wrong. So, cool. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Over now.
Take
Thanks.
it easy.